So this is Baruch Fleischman back here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel again, and this is the place where we left off last time. We're looking at Carolinian, what they call Carolinian France, how big it was at the time, and also the position of the Jews. But it also pointed out here that the Christians got in the act, and they persecuted the Jews. The church persecuted the Jews wherever they could. Now we're going to move to a different topic. We're going to move to the subject. I think I have to move this back a little bit. See how this works out. He says, this is the Khazars. Now, many people think we have a famous book called the Kuzari, which talks in detail about the arguments that went on that ultimately convinced the king of the Khazars to convert to Judaism. And parenthetically, this Dr. Abramson it said that many people thought the Ashkenazi Jews were the descendants of the Khazars. So here we're going to have some interest in where do the Ashkenazi Jews come from anyway? Why weren't they the same Jews as the Jews in Spain? Why are they different where they come from? Let's go over here and talk about the Khazars, because they're not the same at all, and the Ashkenazis have a different origin. And a lot of it has to do with Babylon, believe it or not. So because these French kings brought Jews from Bavel, which was the highest level of Jewish scholarship, to France. So you see the Rashi appearing up over here. Let me see if I'm still having trouble with this. And I'm going to get a new camera. I'm just hoping I could figure out how to get it so it stays straight. He says, let's read like this. This is the Khazars and pressure from the Christian states, the 8th to the 10th centuries. So we'll see what this is all about. You see how, maybe we have to bring it back a little bit more. We're okay. The conversion of the Khazars to Judaism is described in a number of historical sources of the period. Masoudi, the Arab historian and travelers, in his book, The Meadows of Gold and Mines of Gems, that was the name of his book apparently, and he lived between 943 and 947, or excuse me, that must be when the book came out, tells of the Khazar king who converted during the reign of Harun al-Rashid, whose reign was between 786 and 809, of Muslims. He was a Muslim. That there were Christians and Jews who settled in the Khazar city of Atil. Now, we're going to be seeing a map on this. I don't know if it'll be in this year or the next year. We'll look at the map. So this of Jewish settlers, refugees from Muslim countries, and Greeks who settled in the Khazar kingdom as a result of persecution by the Byzantine Emperor Romanos I Lecapenus. So those are his dates. Now here we see the Eastern Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire split into two parts. So you see on the one hand we see the persecutions just beginning in France, in the 800s. And what we see at the same time that you have this thing is on the Eastern Roman Empire, because the Byzantium was a very, very big enemy of the Jews. Other Arab sources relate the conversion story, some telling of the king's disappointment with his Christian faith, and of the talented Jewish polemicist who succeeded in convincing the king after the former had purportedly poisoned his traveling companion, the Muslim emissaries. So in other words, they poisoned the Muslim, didn't like the Christian, and liked the Jew. So anyway, this story is contained really in the Kuzari, and it's a famous book. It's available in English, and it tells Kuzari is the story of the conversion of the Khazars into Judaism. Other sources report that members of the king's court were Jews, that his judicial court was composed of 7 wise men, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and pagans, that the basis of the Khazar livelihood was hunting and trading in animal skins, wax, and honey. These sources also mention that Jews introduced work methods into the kingdom, that they taught the Khazars to read and write, and then only because of their religious separatism were the Jews able to maintain their independence and avoid being crushed between the Byzantine hammer, which is the anti-Jewish Christian kingdom in the Turkish peninsula, basically, the Bams of hammer, and the Caliphate anvil, which is the Muslims. However, political considerations were certainly not the only factors that prompted the Khazar king to convert. The Khazars were constantly at war with their neighbors, and Byzantium, the Christian kingdom, did everything in its power to destroy the kingdom, even exciting the Alan and Russian tribes to attack the Khazars from the north. This constant state of war prevented the Khazars from attending to the internal matter of Jewish consolidation. I'm not sure exactly what this story is telling me. I'm a little confused, but going on. So they were constantly in a state of war, he said. The Jew, what are they able to do? Bring the Jews in? I don't know what he means by consolidation. There's a general consensus that the Khazar kingdom of the 9th and 10th century was a Jewish state with Muslim and Christian minorities, in which the presence of Christians acting as a restraint on Byzantium's treatment of the Jewish population, since there was a minority of Christians. So therefore Byzantium, which is a power and very, very anti-Jewish, and wanting to convert the Khazars into Christianity, but they had a small minority in that country. And the Jews, a lot of Jews in that country, was a very small minority of Christians, so that they shouldn't be persecuted, so they left off a little bit, and they didn't attack so much. The persecution of the Jews of Byzantium during the reign of, I don't know about these details, Romanus I, like Capunas, like Pampinas, or whatever, could be reciprocated by King Joseph's persecutions of the kingdoms in his kingdom. So therefore, there was quid pro quo, I don't know what they call pro, whatever it is. They got along. Not only international political factors undermined the existence of the Khazar kingdom, but also economic ones, such as the lack of a centralized national economy, even by standards of that period. It's true that the capital city of Atil benefited from its strategic location of an important trade route, and was therefore the major source of natural revenue for the kingdom. So we're going to see other pictures of this that are coming up that we'll be looking at the map in some detail to get an idea where Khazar was. So he says, however, the duties on goods and taxes collected within the state, the extent of which we know practically nothing, still fell short of what the kingdom required, in other words, I guess, to protect itself. The apogee, that is the high point of the Khazar kingdom, was in the middle of the 10th century. That's like 950. The period of contact between King Joseph and a rabbi by the name of Hisdai ibn Shaprut. Now, this man is fairly famous, and we may see him come up again, and the emergence of something else called Russian power. According to Russian sources, Sviatoslav, who was the ruler of Kiev. Now, see, it's funny, there's a war going on between Kiev and Russia right now, but you see that also Kiev was Russia at one time. It's not, they're very closely related. According to Russian sources, Sviatoslav, ruler of Kiev from 945 to 972, crushed the Khazars in 965. But they are still mentioned in the Russian chronicles of 1016 and 1023. Khazars from the city of Tarmatakra, I don't know how Taman of today is Tama, assisted Mstislav the Brave in his campaign against his brother Yaroslav the Wise. All these names are running past me. It is known that in 1078, Oleg, grandson of Yaroslav the Wise, resided in Tamarta, or whatever this place is. And the chronicles relate that in 1079 he was seized by the Khazars and taken captain to Constantinople. So what he's really doing is he's recounting all the different places that this is mentioned and try to draw our conclusions from all these different ideas. So you got an idea of the strife that was going on in this region. We'll take a quick look before we leave today to locate where Khazar was, the king of Khazar. However, in 1083, so we're right now in the 11th century, he was able to avenge himself on the Khazars on behalf of his brother. The Khazars are still mentioned at the beginning of the 12th century, so that's in the 1100s, and so it seems that they were active for a considerable period after the defeat by the Russians in 965, and before they finally dispersed among the many Jewish communities. So I don't know if you could see all of that, what I had down below, or what I was saying down below. Take a look at it right now, but I don't always handle the paper as well as I should. I apologize. Let's look at the map up above and just get an idea. So here's what we were talking about in a previous year. That we were talking about. Here's Spain, here's France, here's Germany, here's Hungary. Now you're moving east, right? So Hungary, then we start thinking about Poland. So here we have something called Kievan, Russia. It's on the north. Around the Black Sea, this is the Black Sea right here. This is the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Turkish area. This is the Black Sea, where my finger is right now. My pen is pointing right now. This is the area where it leads right into Khazariya. So this is the area which was a kingdom. They became completely Jewish. Read the Kuzari. You'll get an idea of the arguments. And tomorrow we'll look at it a little bit more in detail and get a better idea of what actually happened in the Jewish kingdom there in Khazar.